feel overwhelmed, stretched too thin, or like you're constantly choosing between work and life? And what if I told you you can be fulfilled without sacrificing your career, life, or even sanity? In today's video, I'm revealing how you can show up in your career and life without feeling burned, drained, or frustrated. However, before we get started, if you are new here, I welcome you. My name is Seun, Akinlotan, your favorite life coach dedicated to helping upwardly mobile business and career women bloom in all aspects of life. Now, let's dive in. Most people think that work-life balance is about splitting time equally between career and life 50-50. Many years ago, during the annual Power Woman Experience, the annual flagship conference that our non-profit hosts, one of our speakers shared with me a dream when she was in college. She dreamed of working at a Fortune 500 company. Initially, she wanted to work there for about 5 years and then start a family and keep going on with life. However, 2 years into her journey, she found love, got married, and started having children. Of course, it was overwhelming for her. She could barely keep up. Each time she was at home, she was feeling guilty for not being at work. And when she was at work, she was feeling guilty for not being at home. What then did she do? She decided that she would adopt a phased approach, which I'll talk about momentarily. But she opted to stay in her then current role for about 14 years, which allowed her time to raise her children. She wasn't under the pressure of becoming the CEO or the director. She had time for her family. And then during that period, she mentioned something profound, at least to me, that she was owning in on her leadership skills. She knew that she wanted to become a leader at her organization, but she wasn't chasing that leadership role without equipping herself with the necessary skills needed to level up. Long story short, today she still works at the company and she is definitely one of the high flyers at that company. Her phased approach allowed her to create time for everything she needed to create time for without feeling burned, frustrated, or drained. So what exactly does a phased approach look like? I'll give you some strategies that you can use, and if this resonates with you, I would love to hear them in the comments. The first one is to define your non-negotiables and your negotiables. What do I mean by that? In life, we all have what matters to us, and what truly matters to you would be categorized as your non-negotiables. For example, for you, it might be your career, your health, your spiritual life. Maybe those are your non-negotiables. Those are things that you absolutely need to focus on. Your negotiables could be relationships, friendships, investing in yourself, whatever it is. Again, it's different for everyone. But when you define what your non-negotiables are, it helps you to focus on what truly matters. It helps you to look at your negotiables like, okay, I'll do these things later. It helps you to know that you are human and that you don't need to attend to everything at once. It gives you peace of mind if you can select your non-negotiables. Now, when I offer this advice to people, what they end up doing is that their list of non-negotiables become so long. You'll be wondering, is there really a difference between your non-negotiable and your negotiable? Again, it's different for everyone, but whatever matters to you, focus on them. Those are your non-negotiables. I recommend not more than 3 or 4 or maybe 5 max, depending on your capacity and your experience, but 5 max. Let's say 5, 3 to 5 max. Then your negotiables, as you have time or as you grow, you can have time, you can have more moments whereby you are able to add more things to your non-negotiables. Defining your non-negotiables brings peace of mind. It eliminates guilt and it helps you to show up wherever your presence is needed. The next one is time and energy management. Those are two things, and they are two separate things. First one, time. I want to say that time management is not just about scheduling things on your calendar. It's not just about punching things on Outlook or Google Calendar or whatever type of calendar that you use. It's about knowing what deserves your time and what doesn't really deserve your time. It's about focus. It's about working when you are required to work. So, for example, in our network, we have a network called Seun Akinlotan Network. One of our sisters shared about the Pomodoro method, which allows you to focus intensely on one task for about 25 minutes. Then you can take 5 minutes as rest time. If you adopt this method, I think it helps because then you are blocking out every other thing when you are working. You're not trying to multitask. You're not trying to be 1,000 things to 1,000 people. You're trying to be just one thing to one person. So when you're at home, you're having dinner with your family, you can adopt the Pomodoro method because it allows you to block every other thing off. You don't have to pick that call when it comes in because you know this is your special family time. When you visit your parents, adopt the Pomodoro method because then you can focus, you can be present. Because sometimes when we try to satisfy everyone, we tend to split our attention, and then people around us are wondering what's going on. You're at a party, but you can't even enjoy the party because you have to pick up someone else's call. So wherever you are, be present and use time management to help you manage your time effectively. Energy management. I'll explain this one. So energy management is about knowing yourself. What are your peak energy times? For example, I am a morning person. I can work at other times of the day as well, but the morning time is when I have so much energy to offer. I can typically complete my task within a short amount of time. So once you know your peak energy times, schedule your most difficult task. The things that require your attention, schedule them at your peak energy times. At least that's what I do for myself. And maybe sometimes I'm unable to accomplish my task in the morning. I can still do them at night, especially when I have an opportunity to take a nap that day. Yes, I can work at night when I take a nap during the day. But typically, my own peak energy times are in the morning, and I get a lot done in the morning. Time and energy management. Another part of energy management is knowing yourself. I am not this type of person that can just keep going and going and going without taking a break. I love to take my breaks because it re-energizes me, it centers me, it allows me to have my moments of reflection. Now, I've observed some people can just keep going without taking a break. So for example, Sundays, I stopped working on Sundays entirely. It doesn't matter how much you want to give me. I stopped working on Sundays because number one, I leave home early for church. I return late from church. So anyone that is trying to seek my attention on Sunday, I typically decline because it's just too much for me. Are there times that I need to sacrifice? Yes. I sacrifice sometimes, but generally my Sundays are times that I love to conserve my energy. I've understood myself, how I operate. So Sundays are my sacred days of rest, reflection, retreating, re-energizing, all the re's. That's what I do on Sunday. So that's time and energy management. Just know yourself and adjust accordingly. The next one, learn to say no. Seriously, no is a full sentence. You don't need to over-explain. You don't need to overcompensate. If something is not fitting into your current schedule, just say no. That way, you are not feeling overwhelmed when you're supposed to show up at work. If you keep saying yes to everything, some people have multiple places they need to be at once because they've overcommitted. Why not start saying no? No is a full sentence. And if you feel like saying more, you don't need to over-explain yourself. You are just one person. You don't need to be everywhere at the same time. You don't need to be everything to everyone. Life will move on without you. So think about that each time you say yes. And then when you say yes, there's something that you are saying no to. So think about it the next time you are tempted or prompted to say yes. Let's move on. The next phased approach is delegate, delegate, delegate. We can talk about delegation at work and delegation at home. For me personally, I struggle with delegation at home because I have ways that I love to execute my task. And I typically feel like no one else can execute them the same way I would. But as I age gracefully, well, I'm still young. However, as I grow older, I realize that I need to delegate some things. In fact, at the end of the year, when people are talking about things they've accomplished during the year, sometimes you might wonder how some people are able to achieve so much more than you are accomplishing. It's not rocket science, it's called delegation. In fact, I always say that if you don't have time, you should at least have money, because you can then send the money on an errand. Places that you cannot be, you can send your money. The money can speak on your behalf. The money can stand in for you. That's what delegation does. That's the power of delegation. Delegate, 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 because it helps you to free up your time. It removes guilt, and you're not drained. You're not feeling burnt out when you delegate. Please, if you have not embraced the power of delegation, I'm imploring you, I'm speaking to myself too, I need to do more delegation at home. You can delegate to your children. For those of us that have children, don't tell the kids I told you this, but it's okay for you to assign tasks to your kids. I think, especially for us women, if you are cooking, why should your kid be watching TV when you are cooking? If you need help, bring them in, teach them how to do it, so that together you can enjoy each other's presence. When you are burned out, stressed out from working all day, cleaning the house all day, cooking all day, how do you want to spend quality time with your spouse or your children? So for those of us that have children, please delegate, 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 but don't tell the kids I was the one that told you. Anyway, that's on a lighter note. The last thing I wanted to mention in this phased approach is understanding the phase of life you are. This is the most important advice that I can offer. When my husband and I were trying to raise our family, our kids were still young then. We wanted to buy our house and we had a couple of options. We had one option that offered us something about an hour away from work. And then we had another option that offered us 7 minutes from work, just 7 minutes or even 5 minutes. The 1 hour option seemed tempting. It seemed like, oh, you can just drive in the morning, get on the highway and go to work. But when we began to question certain things, like, okay, if the kids are unwell, you get a call from the kids' school, do you have to drive 1 hour? You don't even know what the condition of the roads would be. Now, I must mention that the location that was like 5 minutes away from our work, the location was great, but the house was not exactly what we wanted. So we had to kind of say, you know what is our priority right now? What is the season of life that we are? That season was for raising our children. And if there was anything we could do to be there for our kids, to make sure that we are not leaving them in the hands of babysitters, to make sure that we are real parents, leaving the house in the morning together, coming back in the evening. In fact, what I loved about our decision was I was able to drop off my kids 5 minutes away from home. It was less than a mile to my office. And errands that I needed to run during the day, I was able to do them. My lunchtime was for running home, racing home basically, to go and blend pepper. By the time the kids were done from school, the house was set. I was ready to cook dinner for them, ready to eat with them, ready to take them to the park. In fact, During those days, I was always there. My husband was there as well on the days that he could be there, but we were always there together to pick up the kids from the school bus. It allowed us to bond together as a family because we understood the season of life that we were at that time. And I must credit my husband for this. My husband would just say there will be a time where we don't really have to be at the bus stop. There will be a time where the kids can alight from the bus, get inside the house by themselves. But those years were critical for us to be there for our family, and we made a decision. So you can make a decision based on the season of life that you are. If you are a young mom with young children, growing children, there's no reason you are attending every party every weekend. There's no reason, especially when you're comparing yourself with someone else who is also a young mom, who probably has our own parents or our mom taking care of the kids on our behalf. You cannot be comparing yourself to that person. Understanding the season of life you are will help you to apply wisdom in your decisions. You will be able to know when to say yes and when to say no. You'll be able to draw lines. Your boundaries will be clearly demarcated when you understand the season of life that you are. That season also requires you to understand that it's not forever. You might spend the first 5 years of your career focused squarely on work. Maybe you're spending 70% of your time at work because you're young, you are unmarried, you have no other commitment. But once you get married, then wisdom applies. Wisdom should apply. You should get to that point where you say, oh, okay, I need to create time for my spouse. I need to create time for my children. These are my priority right now. You understand? So understanding the season of life that you are, and once you become an empty nester, if you have night shows that you love to attend, you can do that. Understanding the season of life you are will help you to make better decisions. It will help you to stop feeling overwhelmed, stop feeling like you have to be everything to everyone. I think this point is something that everyone can use and just make their lives better, right? So understanding the season of life that you are. How great will it be if you are just living your life feeling fulfilled, not overwhelmed, not feeling like you have to satisfy anyone? It will be great, right? So I encourage you to think through all the steps that I've shared. I'm going to run through them again. I talked about defining your negotiables and non-negotiables. I talked about time and energy management. I talked about learning to say no. Then I moved on to talking about delegate. The last one I just talked about is understanding the season of life that you are. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these steps do you like the most? Which of these steps have you implemented? Which one will you implement? Let me know in the comment box. And if you have not subscribed yet, tell me why. I encourage you to subscribe. I welcome you to subscribe. Turn on your notifications because next week I am teaching or sharing on 5 in-demand skills to level up. You don't want to miss it. But until next time, I would say be exceptional, be intentional, and be on point. Thank you for watching. Bye.